Welcome back to Brilliant Fools. My name is Adam Green, and on this Wednesday, what I want to talk about is this book called From Strength to Strength. And it's actually not so much the book itself that I want to talk about. The book itself is pretty good overall. Makes some interesting findings, conclusions. Really what I want to talk about is what I've heard some people draw from it. And I think it's apropos on this week that we're talking about generations, because the premise of the book is essentially that when you start on something, typically you're going to start when you're younger in your career and you're going to get very proficient at it. Usually that's somewhere in your 20s to 30s, you get very proficient. And then at some point you start to taper off in your proficiency, kind of like an athlete. So an athlete is very good at their sport. Usually their 20s and 30s is when they peak if they're going to be a professional athlete, right? Well, I guess all of us maybe, but usually peak somewhere in their 20s and 30s, and then they start to taper off. And the longer they try to hold it, they may still be able to do some things and have success. I mean, we see athletes in their 40s still have success, win championships, etc. But their performance is not as optimal as it was before, right? So that's kind of the whole gist of this book. And I can see where those conclusions come in a lot of times. In fact, with some of the verses that we looked at earlier this week, like Psalm 71:18, so even to old age and gray hairs, O God, do not forsake me until I proclaim your might from one generation to another, right? And there's some things in Ecclesiastes as well that talk about the this idea that in your youth, your heart will cheer you in the days of your youth. You've got strength, you've got certain vigor that you don't have when you're older. And I think all that's correct. Here's a conclusion that I've heard, and in fact, I even heard this recently from a well-known celebrity talking about his field of work and saying that he didn't want to do much in his field of work anymore. In other words, he didn't want to be out there super public, be seen by everybody, because even though he was very confident he could do it, he had read this book, and his conclusion that he drew was younger people should be doing this. Younger people they're the ones that really can have success with it. And this guy was a comedian. And he was essentially saying that he had passed his prime and it wasn't going to be as good anymore. So he didn't want to have that on his record where it wasn't going to be as good. And I thought that was interesting because one comedian that I've watched recently and really enjoyed is an older guy. In fact, that was not his career. In fact, I've seen several comedians where that's not their career. And then they come into comedy and they do really good. I mean, they do excellent. They're super funny, very hilarious. They can carry a room for a long time. So I thought, okay, why is that? What is this conclusion then? Because there's some truth to what this book is saying, strength to strength. But what's the conclusion what is the conclusion getting wrong, really is the question. Because even in my field, accounting that I've done for many years, I've done some other things as well, right? But I've done accounting for many years, and yes, I can see where I've peaked in proficiency. I'm not going to get more proficient at it. I might gain more knowledge, but to be able to do the work, the grinding work, as quickly and as proficiently, I'm as proficient as I'm going to get. I won't get any faster with it, and that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. I really don't want to. The conclusion this book draws as well is that as you get older, you can move from that strength of proficiency into the strength of passing along knowledge. So more of a knowledge-based strength. And that I understand as well. And that's even what I like to do now. That's what a lot of older accountants do. They have like CFO and advisory type roles, and that's what they try to move into. That's what they want to do. But I almost see an all or nothing kind of view here for most people who take this view. And that is, okay, I'm in the field that I'm in. Now I'm at the point where I can't get any more proficient. I shouldn't try to hold on to that proficiency side. Now I need to go into the knowledge side, and whatever field I've done all this time, that's what I've got to stick with. But I know accountants who started in their 50s, I believe, and kill it, absolutely kill it, and are super proficient and excellent. So I'm thinking it can't be age. I see that. I see the age being a factor in the physical realm. So in your sports world, age can definitely be a factor as far as how much you can be an athlete. Possibly even in some musical fields, age can be a factor potentially, but there are even people who have joined the music field and seen great success when they're older, so that can't be it. And the conclusion that I kind of move to is this. I think anything we start in, if we're in it long enough, we will reach a proficiency side of things. And we've got to be patient to get to the most proficient that we're going to be. But if we stick in that and only let it be that, it'll die out. And I've seen industries do this. I've seen the accounting industry do this, where accountants get to that proficiency level, they stick their nose down and they grind things out really hard, but they don't train the next generation. They don't pass on that knowledge. And now they're starving for people. They're starving for the next generation to come in. The pilot profession was that way for a little bit as well, until they had another surge of young people coming in. But it was this idea that I just need to stick my nose down to the grindstone and go and work. And that's what's rewarded. And I don't need to worry about anything else. But if I don't teach faithful men who are then able to teach others also, I won't pass this stuff on from one generation to another. And I can move to a different thing later on in life and have great proficiency at it. But if I stay in that for too long and don't pass that information on, then I can lose that as well. I've done trade work. I've done many different trade work from framing to finishing. I could get more proficient at each one of those if I decided I wanted to do it. But if I stay in that and I don't do some sort of passing on of the knowledge, maybe even don't do the building up of the business, or I don't have to go a general contractor route necessarily, but I could, and pass on that knowledge and be a leader and then teach other faithful people who can then be a leader and teach others also and keep it moving, keep it going. If that doesn't happen, then it dies out. It dies out. That's important to note in the church especially. It's got to be passed on from generation to generation. But I think it's also important to note in our businesses. What we do doesn't define us. That's a big part of this. Our business doesn't define us. And if we don't pass it on and build it up and build others up, then we'll lose it. So let's look at our businesses a little bit differently, maybe more like a seed that's to be planted in the lives of others to help them grow. And if they do grow, I mean, what happens when you grow an apple tree? You get apples and you get to benefit from the growth of that tree. So if you invest in the growth of others, then you'll get to benefit from it. I hope I've explained this clearly enough, but hey, it's whatever I want Wednesday. So maybe this has been helpful, maybe not, but until next time, thanks.